Welcome to the podcast The Embodiment Talks, a podcast by the Embodiment Lab with Marion van Opijnen. Taking your role as change agent of societal or education systems requires vision and courage. This podcast will help you take this pioneer's role with more body awareness and confidence, without losing sight of the connection with others. We dive into how we as humans are hardwired, how systems change works, and how both are related. I will take you on my own quest, and I will share background information, talk to experts, and share exercises. We will think, feel, and act. Great that you're here, and happy listening. Hi there, great that you're listening to this new episode of the Embodiment Talks. And before I start, I would like to wish you all the best for 2022. I'm recording this early January, so it's still a great time to wish you a happy new year. And I hope you will find a lot of movement in this year and embodiment to create a change that you would like to bring in the world that makes the world a little bit a nicer place. If you do not listen this early January, fine as well, then I just wish you all the best for the upcoming 365 days. So, a new year, a new episode, and I reflected a little bit on the episodes that I already launched in December. What I found is that especially the Pearl of the Week sometimes seems to become a little bit a story to me, or I really start thinking hard about what I experienced in the days before, and I wanted to be more spontaneous, and those pearls, they happen in the moment, but it feels quite a burden to kind of have to include them in my episodes, because that is what I promised and that is what I decided for myself. So I made a new decision. So I decided now that in the upcoming podcasts, I will not include them unless when there just appears someone in my mind very spontaneously in the moment. And then, of course, I will share my pearl of my daily life, but not as a fixed part of the episodes anymore. Having said that, what are we going to talk about today? I often hear people say, I'd like to get more in touch with my body. Or I want to be able to tune into what my body is communicating to me, as there's so much wisdom in our bodies. And we have lost the art of listening to our physical sensations. Whereas our bodies, they just play into whatever happens around us all the time. They are on a certain alert all the time to scan the environment, whether it's safe or whether it's unsafe. And based on the judgment made about the environment, we need to act in a certain way. I've already spoken about that before, and I actually think it should be a mandatory part of our curriculum at schools to learn how to regulate ourselves, to learn how to listen to what is present in our bodies in the moment. But unfortunately, we kind of lost the language that our bodies speak. And then I'm not talking about body language, which of course we know as well, that you look at somebody and you see something in the posture of somebody, and that has a certain effect on me. And I also can change my posture so that for example, if I want to make a power pose and I put my arms up and my legs a little bit apart from each other and just really get grounded in my hips, then of course there's kind of it's a posture that gives me confidence in what I'm going to do, for example. So it's a great posture to do before you have to give a presentation, for example, or before I record these episodes. But if I talk about the language of our body, I actually talk about the language that our body speaks to us. That non-verbal language is deeply rooted in our feelings, in our postures, in tension or relaxation in certain parts of the body, on our movements, our gestures, our facial expressions, the level of our arousal, our heartbeat, our breath. So there's a lot of different aspects that we can look at when we tune into the language of how the body communicates to us. We have even a lot of sayings about this as well. Just to give you a few examples, like to bite your tongue, where you actually say, like, I try really hard not to say what I really feel or what I really want to say. So to be able to do that, you bite your tongue, or you tension your jaws. Or to make your blood boil, so you get really heated when somebody makes you angry, for example. Or to be down in the mouth. So just imagine being down in your mouth and letting your jaws a little bit hang, and kind of what does it to your mood? So it gives a kind of a depressed feeling. On a nicer note, having butterflies in your tummy, falling in love with somebody. Although you can also have butterflies because you're nervous. So there's all different sayings that we have in our language that are based on feelings that we have in our body. So then the question is, what kind of, I'd like to categorize them a little bit, and I speak in this podcast of my own experience. So many different physical sensations that I experience in my own body, but also there's a very nice overview that you can find in the book Feel to Heal from Giten Tonkov. He's the founder of Biodynamic Breathwork and Trauma Release. And also there's a lot written by Pat Ogden or by Peter Levine. So there is a lot of information available, and I will put some references in the show notes with this podcast. So let's get started about the different physical sensations that we can experience. And physical sensations have a certain intensity. So they can be very soft and weak and fluid, but they can also be hard and sharp and give a certain pressure. So and we experience all of these different sensations, not just these, but any, as pleasant or as unpleasant. So something can be very soft, but it can still be very unpleasant in how we experience it. And something can be really, really soft and a really pleasant experience. And that also leads me to these intensities can be felt in certain parts of the body, but they can also be felt in our whole body. So there are, like, if I can be trembling, for example, and then my whole body can tremble or vibrate and feel really energized. So it's whole body sensations that we can have. But I can also just have a tremble in my hand, or sometimes you have those kind of nerve ticks in your eyes, that your eyes tremble a little bit, and that are all different signals that we get. I don't have a meaning for all of them because that can be very personal. And then if we tune into some more whole body sensations, we can also, for example, feel a little bit fainted. So a little bit, dull, or dull is maybe not the right word for that. A bit fluffy, maybe that is a better word for that. And the whole body experiences, they can be, and also the part, I mean, everything is like either in the whole body or in a part of the body. It can have an experience of expansion, or it can have an experience of contraction. So I can feel like being really expanded, like my hands are getting really, really big, like they've blown up like a balloon, or my whole body feels like, I'm just really expanding. Although, of course, the body stays the same, but it's the experience that we have of the physical sensations. The same that the body can feel really contracted. So we can kind of put our arms to our body and bend a little bit forward so the whole body gets contracted. Or we can feel waves of energy going through the body. And sometimes you can radiate warmth or cold, and it can feel really fluid, like you're floating, or it can feel a little bit stiff, and like you are making really sharp movements. And our body also touched a little bit upon temperature. Temperature is another way of how we can experience our body. Our body can feel really cold. It can even feel frozen or really, really cold, or it can feel cold, like a little bit less cold or cool. But it can also feel really, really warm or hot or boiling. So even the temperature has different levels that we can feel of coldness or of warmth, for example. I'm just giving you all different examples, and after that I will upload a small exercise in relation to this podcast where you will find a way to kind of tune in what's present in your body in this moment. Then if we move back to parts of the body, let's first look at the muscles. So the muscles can tremble or vibrate a little bit. And trembling can be very pleasant experience. Like, oh, I'm just really hanging in my trembling or shuddering of the body. But it can also be an unpleasant experience. Like I'm getting a shiver from cold, for example, or I get really shaky because it's just something happening that really arouses me. And that can be muscle sensations, but muscle sensations can also be that it is very tense or cramped, or that we have a muscle ache, which of course we often get when we have play sports, for example. And that is all the muscles. That's all inside of our body, and that can make us that we get constricted, or that we have an experience of being constricted, like we are stuck. And a stuckness can be that I'm nailed to the floor, for example. So I really feel stuck to the floor. But it's also the little nuts that we get in our muscles. So if you sometimes massage your neck or something, then you get those little nuts that is also a kind of a constriction or a stuckness in a particular place. And constricted, just imagine that you are shocked about something, then you kind of constrict, you become breathless. So you constrict your breath, you hold your breath. That can give a lot of tension on your chest. And another one is our skin. So when we move a little bit out of our body to the periphery, or the skin is actually what separates us from the outside world. And our skin can feel itchy, or it can feel tingly, or moist or dry. It can get really sweaty and clammy. But it can also feel really, really dry. And one that we often recognize as one of the most is like the goosebumps. And goosebumps, of course, gives us an impression that it's cold. But we can also get them if something happens that really, really touches us, that can give a physical sensation or a physical reaction, as in goosebumps. So, and to stay a little bit back, the skin, of course, is one of our senses, and to stay with another sense, which is our eyes. So sometimes we can have like a blurry view on something. Like if you're in a meeting and somebody starts talking, and I've used this example before, that it gets a little bit blurry, like you can't really see, although you are present, and of course you see, but there's that sensation of like, oh, it gets a little bit blurry. Or it gets a little bit blurry in my head, for example. I can't think straight. And with the eyes, we can also get really fixed on something, fixed on a person, or fixed on an item that we see. And I know I give a lot of different examples, and I hope that some of these, like, oh yeah, I recognize that, or I don't. I've never had that. And I hope it gives you some ideas on how extensive the language of our bodies actually is. And also our bodies, we have a certain, from the body, we have a certain feeling or notion on where we are in the space. So we have our senses that are unconsciously always aware on where we are in the space. Like, are we close to a wall? Are we a little bit further away from a wall? Am I in balance? Am I out of balance? And do I stand really steady on my legs? Do they feel really solid? For example, I can have solid legs, or I can have a little bit fluffy legs. And where is that located in my legs? Is that my whole legs that feel really steady or fluffy? Or is it like, my knees are kind of not so steady or a little bit wobbly? Okay, so then now what? Knowing those sensations, of course, is very helpful, because we have lost this vocabulary that we need to be able to express what's going on in our body. And it's our job to kind of regain that language of our, or to remember the language that the body speaks to us. And that is where it starts. If we want to dive deeper into our bodies and in doing things in an embodied way. And as I said before, one of the important parts of that is to be able to listen to our bodies and to understand the language that our bodies speak, to know like what kind of different sensations can I actually have when I tune into my body. So as I said, I will record another podcast as an exercise. And I like to do that in a separate episode, because otherwise you always have to go back to a particular minute in this episode. So then you can choose to just use that, listen to that episode and just do the exercise. I hope this gave you some insights on how the body communicates. And if you have any questions about this episode, don't hesitate to contact me. Yeah, just let me know what kind of physical sensations that you experience and how your body communicates. And maybe you find that it fits in one of the categories that I have spoken about, or maybe it's just something completely different. So I'd like to hear that as well. And thank you for listening, and see you again, or hear you again, or whatever, in my next episode. Have a nice day. Bye for now. Great that you listened to this episode of the Embodiment Talks. Please let me know your thoughts about this episode or the insights that you gained. Email me to the address in the show notes. If you want to get in touch with me, or if you have a question or topic that you want to know more about, don't hesitate to send me an email as well. Do you want to be kept up to date? Like this podcast in your favorite podcast app. You can help me by giving a thumbs up or leaving a comment so that this podcast will reach more people. You can find more information about my work on my website www.embodimentlab.nl or my YouTube channel Embodiment Lab. Thanks for listening, and meet you at the next episode.